So with the broad culture of, like, say, movies and advertising, music, and the art world, do you draw any influences from that, or is it just generally other street art, or?
I don't know if I draw any influences from that, so to speak. I draw my influences from everything, from my daughter's paintings to kids' paintings to Michelangelo. But as far as movie, anything Hollywood, I think they draw from us and or artists. So I don't know that I get inspiration from any of that.
Could you just, I heard this morning about it, but can you just tell me what your, how you got your original idea for it?
Well, the original idea was, years back I had to, I started being an artist to support myself and my family. And when that decision was made and I decided to stop Third Rail, the clothing company, all these various things I was doing and become an artist, I thought I have to really take this serious. I have to start looking into this and kind of evaluate myself. So I wanted to see what made me tick, so to speak. And graffiti obviously was the art that inspires me. And I wanted to know, what was it about graffiti that inspires me? So I kept thinking about what were the most ecstatic moments I had, and that was the next day after I did the piece, going down the freeway to see it. And I'll never forget, every time you see that piece, it's like, boom, big splash of color. And I was like, yeah, it's that thing. So I was like, what is it? Was it the feeling of getting over, or was it the feeling, all these things, what was it? And I said, was it the piece? And I was like, no, I really like the graffiti, I like the piece. But then I realized I really couldn't read the piece, unless I slowed down. I'm doing like 70 down the freeway. So it's just that color, that splash of color, and the vibrant colors that graffiti has, the palette that many graffiti artists work with is so much more vibrant than a regular palette. So it was the color. So I was like, wow, maybe I can evoke the same emotion without doing letters. So that's what I started to do. So I tried it and I said, wow, it is, I like it. So that was the basis of it. So then I had to say, well, I want to put some elements of my graffiti in there because it's so important to me. So the circles, the outline of the circles, are the most elementary form of graffiti, which is the bubble. Whether you have it in your background or your fill, the bubble. The vertical and horizontal 90-degree lines is because my personal letters have always been based on weights and balances, and they're kind of symmetrical. So that's what those lines represent. So that's as deconstructed as you can get with my graffiti, and that's the whole beautifully destroyed process. It's painting a totally mundane object and just making something ordinary different, whether it be a paint job of any kind, on a car, a house, a boat, a street sign, a stop sign, a building, whatever it may be, and then to evoke emotion. So, I started doing these in some of the skid rows, Los Angeles and Miami, and I wanted to see if it evoked that emotion with people that were very indifferent to graffiti or anything, letters or imagery, and it did. It uplifted them and made me happy. So that's what that comes from.
So in essence, you transferred that feeling you got driving down the highway that day to these people now that live in the area.
Yeah, for different reasons. It uplifted them for a variety of reasons, and my excitement. I don't know. It evokes emotion. Color does evoke emotion, and when you tie in things from the surrounding areas, and all my pieces have a meaning. Whether I don't know if a lot of people would get it, but they all have a meaning to me. Like in the piece that you saw earlier today, the reason it took a drastic turn from the purple to the fire colors isn't just because they look good together. It's because when you stand back and see the community oven, it just made sense.
Yeah.
So that's why that happened. But they all have a reason.
So in other words, the large size, the large scale is interesting, as in the whole environment of the community becomes the other colors in the work.
Right.
And then that's very interesting.
Right.
That's I never thought of it that way. Because obviously it's a large piece.
Well, yeah.
You feel that it's so dominant, but really it's actually a part of the puzzle of the overall experience.
Yeah, the whole environment. And I also play off of each of walls. So like if in Miami I did buildings near each other that you could see. So I did a complementing color, or a contrasting color, whatever I thought worked. And that whole Miami Park West project, when I did 17 buildings, people were like, wow, 17 buildings. I'm like, no, it's one project. You know, it's made to, you know, go up in the high rise and look down and see them sparkling. When you see a big cement jungle and you see the sparkling color, that's what it's all about.
And was that your largest beautifully destroyed to date, the 7 building project?
Yeah, it's like 17 buildings. But
17?
Yeah, well, you know, we're not done with all 17, but there's a total of 17 buildings. I think we're at about 10 or something. But yeah, that's the biggest to date.
And so there's no any interest at all in the art pours from the art world, like the Morris Lewis's or anything like that? Was no influence whatsoever on you?
No, I think that a lot of color field painters I came across after, and they were extremely important to me. And I thought that was like amazing, looking at some of the guys' work. That a lot of color field painters that it just blows me away, because you know, no one invents anything; it's all reinvented, right? And to see the stuff that I hadn't seen that these guys were doing, you know, when I was born, basically, it was just amazing to me. So all I could do is hope to somehow take it one step further, you know.
Then, do you consciously see the Beautifully Destroyed series as a development in your technique?
Yeah, no, I definitely don't see it as a progression or extension of my work at all. I see it as, you know, like this show's called Keep On Keepin On. Yeah. It's just me being an artist. It's just another style. You know, some people, you could write with handwriting or calligraphy or print, whatever it is, you're still writing. It's just another style to your repertoire. So to me, it's just another style, another form of painting that I do.
Okay. You'd mentioned one of your interviews that said it took you 30 years to find your agenda. Yeah. Can you explain that a bit?
Yeah. Well, you know, it took me. That meant that, you know, I was doing graffiti for 30 years before I started doing the beautifully destructed stuff, and you know, it took me 30 years to basically find out what makes me tick. And as much as I love graffiti, and I'll never stop doing graffiti, I didn't realize that I could do a painting without writing the word risk and make myself tick, I guess. So that meant that. That's what that meant. It meant that, you know, it took me 30 years to realize that I was a color field painting and a color field artist, painter, not just a graffiti artist. And there's nothing wrong with just being a graffiti artist, I'm not saying that. But I'm saying it took me 30 years to realize that I was doing a form of painting that didn't necessarily have to be graffiti.
Right.
To fulfill me.
Yeah, as you said earlier, the palette. You know,
yeah.
you kind of freed the palette of the letters,
yeah.
and you got, you know, it clicked with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, just, you know, going from, you know, the original Beautifully Destroyed paintings were 90% spray paint, and now, you know, they're 90% acrylic or enamel or tints or lacquers or whatever they may be. It doesn't have to be spray paint, and it's just you adapt to whatever. You know, because of scale, you know, I couldn't use a lot of spray paint on some of them. So, you know, it's just something that, you know, as an artist, I think that you want to just keep going. You know,
yeah.
Wherever the day takes you, wherever the painting takes you, wherever the canvas takes you, you know, wherever the medium takes you.
Any comments on, say, I know you did the Los Angeles County Museum of Art, the Art in the Streets show. Is there a division between, say, the street art world and the art world, sort of the classical notion of the art world? Is those lines getting blurred these days, or is there still a difference? Did you notice a difference?
Well, there's always a difference in people's minds, because the word graffiti has such a negative connotation that it's going to take a lot of people, it's going to take generations before that is dispelled. And so, you know, in saying that, there's always a difference. But, you know, there is no difference. I went years without saying the word graffiti, and I wasn't a graffiti artist, I was an aerosol artist, you know. And I just realized one day, I was like, you know what? Fuck it, it is what it is. I'm a graffiti artist, take it or leave it, you know, love it or hate it. I'm a graffiti artist. And that's just one of the artists that are inside of me. I'm a contemporary artist, I'm a graffiti artist, I'm a color field artist, I'm all these artists, I'm just an artist. So to me, I'd rather just use words like contemporary art and classic art. You know, there's bigger genres that you can define, and when you start trying to break up graffiti art and street art, it just gets a little confusing and silly, I think.
I think this is a very important extension of that question, or it's in the same idea. Doing the work is there a different charge? Remember in your old days when you'd go out and you'd hit walls and stuff like that, and now you're being invited into galleries to do gallery walls and everything. Is it a different feeling because of that, or do you get the same charge of it?
No, see, to me, it's a little different because, you know, that old argument, people said, you know, graffiti's not for galleries, it's never supposed to have boundaries, and if you put boundaries on it, it's not graffiti and this and that. And I just think that's really funny because to me it's totally opposite. When you go in a gallery, you have no boundaries. You could do stuff you can't do on the streets. You can come onto the streets, to the walls, you can incorporate lights and there's so many different things you can incorporate in a gallery that, to me, the gallery is awesome.
So what do you have in mind for the Winnipeg show?
Well, the Winnipeg show is Keep On Keepin On. And it was really cool because when I was invited to do this gallery, I looked a little bit into the gallery and I started thinking about it. I was like, wow, that's really cool because number one, it's a gallery that appreciates graffiti. And in this day and age, you have a lot of galleries that don't appreciate graffiti for whatever reason, whether they think it's oversaturated or whether they think it's a craft or all these things. But graffiti is a very important part of me as an artist and of my art, and I don't believe in abandoning that. And you know, like you asked earlier about the other styles, and you know, is it a progression? No, it's just another style. And you know, a lot of galleries want the beautifully destroyed stuff, and as I said, I believe, you know, I have a personal agenda of doing 100 of those murals before I show it in a gallery. I believe you have to put in the time for everything, and so the Winnipeg Gallery, Graffiti Gallery show is cool to me because it's their 15th year anniversary. The show is called Keep On Keepin On. It's about me as an artist doing a gallery show, and I'm including graffiti. I'm focusing on graffiti, and I'm actually doing stuff that I haven't got to do in a while that really makes me happy, like sketches and pen and ink and encompassing all these things. And then also the way I approached the show was different because usually I create a body work in my studio, I send it to the show for the opening, and that's it. But this one, because I knew it was different, it was a place I had to really come check out, I'm spending more time here than I've spent anywhere for a show, and I've never really created a body of work on site before. So it's pretty cool, and I'm glad I did that because seeing a lot of the culture and the local stuff really changed my whole agenda for the show. So everything about this show is different for me because, you know, just the way I've approached it, and it's just really cool because it's really about celebrating myself as a graffiti artist with no limitations or expectations. It's just I'm doing what I want to do, when I want to do it, how I want to do it at the spur of the moment. So it's really kind of a cool feeling. And you know, coming here and going and scavenging all these various things to paint on is really cool. It's something that I'm into. I guess you could say I'm a collector, scavenger of sorts. So being able to include that in my artwork and having that being from the local environment is really kind of special. So yeah, it's gonna be great.